Los Angeles, home to Hollywood, gangster rap, 6-lane freeways, and fake-breasted wannabes chasing the American dream. But for 3 days of the year, this sprawling Californian metropolis is transformed into Video Gamesville as the international games industry descends on the LA Convention Center to swap business cards, strike deals, and gawp at advanced previews of forthcoming products. E3 is the world's largest video game trade show. Currently in its 10th year, its importance to the industry can't be understated. If a game can generate a buzz at E3, it's got a great chance of eventually becoming a hit. But every year the competition gets fiercer and hundreds of games are lost in a frenzy. Some publishers will do anything to get their products noticed. Set over 720,000 square feet, this is E3 2004, the biggest, the loudest, and the sweatiest games convention ever. Coming up on the Edge E3 Experience 04, we scrutinise Sony's first foray into handheld gaming and see how Nintendo's daring DS design was received by the industry.
If you're a game developer, you should be excited about it, I think.
We assess the impact of the heavyweights in the increasingly competitive first-person shooter genre to discover who's gunning for glory and who's firing blanks.
Halo 2 looks absolutely amazing.
We learn that 2004 is going to be a good year to be a GameCube owner. We uncover some exciting prospects that aren't just sequels or licensed games. And finally, we catch up with some old friends from Japan.
For fans of the original, I think it's going to be a dream come true.
This year, I think the story is all about handheld and mobile gaming. There's been a lot of buzz about Sony's PlayStation Portable.
PSP looked absolutely awesome, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the cues to look at the device really spoke for themselves.
The PSP's strength, I think, is the way that you can play games, listen to music and watch movies as well. And I think in that sense it's really going to capture the hearts and minds of the gadget buying public.
I've just been playing games on DS and it too is a really nice piece of kit.
It's got really sophisticated 3D processing power, it's touch screen, it's wireless multiplayer gaming as well.
All these things imply different kinds of games. Those games are going to have to come before anyone can get excited.
Anticipation was rife for the unveiling of the brand new handheld games machine from the company behind Mario and Zelda.
Well, the wait is over. This is Nintendo DS.
Unleashed on the world for the first time in Nintendo's E3 press conference, the DS features dual screens, wireless multiplayer, a touchscreen option, and a microphone to allow voice controls in some games. This features list surprised even the most experienced commentators. Showgoers queued for up to 2 hours to catch a glimpse of the DS, and they were rewarded for their patience with a chance to play a series of mini-game demos.
The graphics are better than I expected. It looks really sharp.
It's amazing. It's something else. My mind is completely blown away right now.
Nintendo's legendary games designer Shigeru Miyamoto was on hand to endorse the DS. He thinks its innovative features will appeal to more than just hardcore gamers.
One of the DS's most important features, and something that's introduced to a lot of DS games, is very simple touchscreen control. This simplicity can be very appealing to people who have never played games before. So here on Metroid Prime Hunters, by tapping the screen, I can control Samus's movement and weapons.
Some pundits, however, remain skeptical about this method of controlling games on the DS.
It's a bit gimmicky, I think. I mean, some of the games I think it works better for than others. They have a Sonic game where you have to go like this with the stylus to make Sonic run. I can't imagine doing this for 15 hours and not getting tired of it.
While a host of new titles, predictably featuring the likes of Mario and Pokemon, are planned, Backwards compatibility means DS can play the existing Game Boy Advance library of games.
I think it will really appeal to the hardcore Nintendo fanboys. I don't know if it's really going to appeal to older gamers and a much sort of more mass market segment.
The DS is an attractive prospect, but doubts about the versatility of its key features may mean that it struggles to find an audience beyond the Nintendo hardcore. Arguably overshadowing Nintendo's efforts was the debut of Sony's first handheld gaming platform, the PlayStation Portable. Its cutting-edge design and amazingly sharp widescreen display drew showgoers to the Sony booth like moths to a flame.
When I arrived at the E3 show this year, I made a beeline straight for the PSP. All I can say is wow.
PlayStation Portable will allow consumers to enjoy 3D gaming similar to the experience delivered on PlayStation 2. It also has the ability to deliver high-quality movies, music, and video, as well as other forms of digital entertainment content through one central device.
But I think there's no doubt that the PSP is going to be big and everyone's supporting it in a big way. Looks really high-tech. I'm pretty stoked to actually play it.
Sony didn't have finished production models on their stand, but demo machines, some inside cabinets, were enough to whet the appetite of the E3 attendees.
As soon as you set eyes on a PSP in real life, you realise that this is one very serious piece of hardware. It's got a really big screen, it's in 16:9 ratio, so you've got a perfect platform to show movies on, essentially. And the fact that it is virtually a PlayStation 2 in a tiny matchbox-sized sort of piece of kit just means that I think a lot of gamers are just going to go nuts for it.
As with PlayStation and PS2, PSP will enjoy support from all of the major games developers, and Sony were keen to demonstrate how good games will look on their new platform. Inside the exclusive PSP VIP area, we were treated to glimpses of Metal Gear Acid, as well as the PSP versions of Ape Escape, among others. All of the PSP's media will be accessed via a new disc format called Universal Media Disc, or UMD for short.
UMD is set to become a new global format, one that can be used in many future products, and in fact, its storage capacity is 3 times that of a CD-ROM.
The handheld market is currently dominated by Nintendo, with over 150 million Game Boy, Advances and SPs sold around the world. But if Sony can emulate the branding success of the PlayStation, Nintendo could find themselves with a fight on their hands.
Despite Nintendo's incredible prowess with game design, the DS looks like something that was knocked up in your garage. So I think in that respect, I do think that Sony are likely to cause some damage with the PSP.
Questions still remain regarding PSP's battery life and its multimedia capabilities, but judged simply by the number of covetous glances it received at E3, Sony's about to make an impressive splash in the handheld gaming arena.
All I can say is tell Santa you want one.
I think Halo 2 on Xbox Live will prove to be the defining multiplayer gaming experience of this current generation.
Using dual weapons is a very, very different feel to the game.
But for people that have a PlayStation 2 and won't be able to play Halo 2, Killzone looks like a really good entry.
Some of the kind of animations and the way that the characters will react and appear to hunt you down and act intelligently really did impress.
Doom 3 looked surprisingly good on the Xbox. A lot of people were thinking the Xbox is not a very powerful system.
I've grown slightly wary of having to upgrade my home PC in order to play these games, and so it's brilliant that they've been able to get a version of it running on the Xbox that you can just stick in and enjoy straight away without faffing around.
The most anticipated game on any console, Halo 2, ships November 9th, 2004. Enough said.
While these are brave words from Microsoft's Peter Moore, his claims aren't without substance. Other than the reaction at the arrival of Muhammad Ali, the biggest cheer at this year's E3 Xbox conference was reserved for news of Halo 2. A set in stone, or in this case, tattooed on ARM release date of November 9th, and a demonstration of the multiplayer mode sent the partisan audience into raptures. Halo 2 was being shown behind closed doors at the show itself, but Edge was lucky enough to be invited beyond the velvet rope.
This year we're showing just a brief glimpse of what we're going to do with Halo 2 multiplayer. So we're having people come in, sit down and play for about half an hour and try out some of the new stuff we have and just get a sense for how the game's going to play. We're showing a new map here. We're showing people how dual wielding of weapons works, how vehicle boarding works, how destructible environments work, and a lot more.
But it's not just the look and feel of the game that Bungie have been working on.
One of the things that's really important to us is making sure that we can capture that experience of playing on a couch with your friends that I think works so well in Halo, but now we have to do it with people on Xbox Live from all around the world. So we're spending a lot of time focusing on that.
It seems like Doom 3 has been at E3 forever, with video footage behind closed doors year after year. But this year, there was something different. Fully playable Xbox code. They said it couldn't be done, but there it was on the Xbox booth, and it looked great.
Well, everybody's loved the game, and it's been really gratifying for us to see it because, it's the first time people have actually been able to play the single-player aspect of Doom 3, regardless of the platform.
Doom 3 on Xbox will also have the same multiplayer modes as the PC version, plus something extra.
We'll have 4-player deathmatch, last man standing, tournament mode, so one-on-one, team deathmatch, and then only for the Xbox you'll be able to play cooperatively over both Xbox Live and System Link, so that's really cool.
Vicarious Visions is in charge of the conversion from PC to Xbox game, but very few compromises have had to be made. No news on the progress of the PC version for now, but Doom 3 should appear on both formats before the end of the year. Carnage on a global scale is the order of the day in PS2's Killzone from Dutch development house Guerrilla. Convincing first-person shooters are distinctly absent from Sony's armoury, but this grimy effort should change all that. The buzz surrounding Killzone has been building for months, unhindered by the lack of playable code. Thankfully, the game's official coming out at E3 didn't disappoint.
We didn't anticipate so much hype around the game, and it came out of a leak somewhere, and then all of a sudden somebody put a screenshot on the net and everyone went crazy.
Set on a distant world in the future with beleaguered colonists battling invading hordes, the plot won't win any awards for originality, but super smart squad-based enemy AI, a confident graphical style, and the promise of online play make Killzone a worthy prospect.
There's a lot of different types of first-person shooter, and they can distinguish themselves in a number of different ways. What we went for was reality, and really wanted to push that. You're in an army, and you're fighting another army, and it's gritty and nasty.
Find out just how gritty and nasty when Killzone ships later this year. It was still one of the most talked about games of E3, and it did have the biggest crowds of the event, but it's a hard life being a Half-Life 2 watcher. In development since the turn of the century, the big surprise was that there was still no playable code for one of the most anticipated PC games ever. Although this hasn't seemed to dampen the fans' enthusiasm.
You forget that you're actually watching a game. You really feel like you're in it.
I just thought it was visually amazing. The big spider thing, still impressive. And the whole physics engine is brilliant.
Here's what you missed.
Half-Life 2 is looking amazing. I mean, I have to say that they wheel it out every year, and it's almost, you know, you actually want to get hold of a mouse and have a go with the bugger. They showed a bit of the opening, and I think, again, a very, very atmospheric game that I think, you know, does push things beyond where they've been before. The proof of the pudding will be finally in the eating, but it's been a while.
Although Valve did give us hope that Half-Life 2 wouldn't be attending another E3 as a work in progress.
Yeah, right now we're targeting summer for release of the game, for completion of the game. You know, the game's playable from start to finish right now. The team knows that the end is in sight, and so we're really, really excited, and we hope to have the game in everyone's hands, you know, really, really soon.
The biggest surprise at Nintendo's press conference was the revelation of a new Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda.
What was most interesting, I think, was the reaction. There was one particular chap, and when Zelda was revealed, he apparently fell to his knees and raised his arms.
Making it more adult, I think, really applies to the fact that the audience playing the games has grown up as well.
Metroid Prime 2 is one of my high hopes for GameCube.
Resident Evil 4, I wasn't even a fan of that series until I saw 4, and I'm like, wow, I have to play this.
I was most impressed with how fast and how smooth it is. Previous games have had you dispatching lumbering zombies, but this time around they're actually people that have been contaminated. It's so smooth, the transition between aiming and moving and running and jumping. And jumping is something you've never seen in the Resident Evil game before.
Sony and Microsoft may have had the bigger E3 presences, but Nintendo was keen to prove that GameCube is far from extinct by announcing a raft of exciting new titles. When Shigeru Miyamoto appeared on stage swinging a sword during the company's press conference, it could only mean one thing: a brand new Legend of Zelda title for the GameCube. Most people had been expecting Wind Waker 2, but as you can see, this game has replaced Link's cel-shaded world with stunning 3D graphics.
The biggest question I had to address in Legend of Zelda is when Link grows up again. How would he look? We tried lots of different visual styles, but they didn't really fit. So in the end, we created a similar style to the Ocarina of Time, which represents an older Link.
I think a lot of people were disappointed when the Wind Waker came out. It was cel-shaded. It looked kind of cartoony, you know, like something Disney would bring out. It was a good game to play, but some people just couldn't get past sort of the kiddie-like graphics. This one, super realistic, looks super hardcore.
We know that gameplay is more combat-orientated and that Link gets to ride and even fight astride his horse, but new Zelda details were scarce. One thing's certain, though, it's taking the GameCube to new graphical heights, matching the best available on Xbox. Fans of Zelda have a lot to look forward to. The DS may have stolen the limelight at this year's Nintendo stand, but one character determined not to take a back seat was Samus Aran, the leading lady of the highly anticipated GameCube sequel, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. The original Metroid Prime was hailed as a classic back in 2002, but from what we saw at this year's E3, Echoes is a worthy successor.
The first game was such a landmark title. I mean, really redefined first-person games. You know, it wasn't a first-person shooter, it was a first-person adventure.
Apart from its striking visuals, the E3 demo suggested that Echoes won't be a radical departure from its predecessor. But there are a number of significant new features. The game alternates between dark and light worlds, patrolled by two very distinct sets of enemies. There's also a fast-paced split-screen deathmatch mode, making Metroid Prime 2 Echoes a must-have. While you can't question the success of Capcom's Resident Evil franchise, the most recent offerings have left even the most dedicated Fright fans looking for something original. Thankfully, with the stunted exploration of old ditched in favour of all-out action, Resident Evil 4 looks certain to deliver. The worn-out T-virus plot has finally been jettisoned, and events will take place in a remote village, free from the constraints of Raccoon City. The star of the show is old Resi favourite Leon Kennedy, but new characters bring with them new responsibilities.
This time around, we added a girl called Ashley. Once you find her, you have to guide her through the game. If you leave her alone, she'll get kidnapped and you have to shoot enemies to save her. So sometimes you have to protect her. It's one of the interesting points of the game.
Leon and Ashley will also face new, improved enemies. It's the end for our shambling zombie friends. Instead, deranged villagers pose an altogether more potent menace. And what about this for an end-of-level boss? Despite the new gameplay elements, it was the stunning visuals that really underlined Resident Evil 4's great leap forward, outclassing anything we've seen on the GameCube so far.
With StarCraft Ghost, Blizzard are taking all the kind of excellent elements of the StarCraft universe and making it into a more accessible first-person shooter. So on a console machine, you can just walk around and shoot people and you don't have to sit there gathering together your minions and hurling them forth.
Ratchet & Clank is this really cool, cartoony-style game from Insomniac Games, and it looks like what they're doing with the latest iteration is taking it online with a multiplayer mode.
They showed it at the Sony press conference. I've been a big fan of that series. Going Commando was one of my favorite games last year. You know, they bring out a new sequel every year, and somehow they always manage to top themselves.
There was an awful lot going on. It looked really pretty, really maximising what PS2 can do. So, yeah, to me it was one of those things that you just came away thinking, I'm bound to buy that and play it.
One of the best new original IPs unveiled at E3 was Destroy All Humans, an action-adventure game with its tongue wedged firmly in its cheek. Disguising your alien as a puny human is just the first step in achieving dominion over the Earth. After that, the sky's the limit.
We've got 50 or 60 years worth of UFO mythology to draw from. We've got mutilating cows, we've got mind control, we've got ray weapons, we've got the UFO, which you can take off and lay waste to entire cityscapes in. We've got a whole bunch of different gameplay.
Developer Pandemic Australia's use of retro 50s environments and cunning plots and schemes, not to mention its thinly disguised tribute to Tim Burton's Mars Attacks, makes Destroy All Humans an enticing prospect. It's due to abduct your console early next year. The transition from PC-based real-time strategy to console shooter has taken an age, but StarCraft Ghost is finally shaping up to be a heavyweight contender on this year's PS2 and Xbox release schedules. The ghost of the title is a bionically and psionically enhanced heroine, Nova, a kind of cross between Metroid Prime Samus and Splinter Cell's Sam Fisher.
She has a lot of different special powers, the most important one being the ability to cloak. So she has a cloaking device that she can gauge anytime. She's somewhat of a psychic operative. She actually uses her psychic powers to augment her Gauss rifle and her various other military hardware.
So, sneaking around shooting aliens and space marines with a futuristic sniper rifle is something of a speciality for Nova. But Blizzard is keen to emphasize the variety of gameplay.
We have a lot of missions that are outside the normal stealth action genre. Like I said, one of the coolest missions we have is Nova actually helps a tank column move into a valley, and she actually spots with her rifle for the tank barrages to land at specific spots.
With its moody atmosphere and animation courtesy